Hello everyone, welcome to Highway Dragon Gaming. There are lots of developer rooms in Skyrim that players were never supposed to find. In this video, I'm going to show you 8 secret developer rooms that even many veteran players don't know. This room feels completely out of place in Skyrim. The walls and floors are lined with grid patterns, something straight out of a game like Portal. It almost feels like a near-future test environment, rather than something that belongs in Tamriel. Inside the room are 3 ordinary hunter NPCs, each friendly and lacking any unique dialogue.
Take a look.
They walk back and forth across a set of swinging bridges, making it unclear what exactly the developers were testing here. On the other side of the bridges stand 3 massive greybeard-like statues, which can actually be broken apart. Unfortunately, once destroyed, the stone pieces have no physics at all. Whether you use melee attacks, magic, or even shouts, they won't move. Some of you may have seen this room before, but what you might not know is that by disabling collision and heading north, you can find a snow elf-style corridor and an extra room hidden away. This is actually a leftover section of the Chantry of Auriel after the explosion during the Dawnguard main quest. This room is seriously creepy, with the entire space filled with eerie textures. In general, the bodies of ordinary enemies such as bandits will eventually despawn, but named NPCs follow a different rule. After death, they are transferred to this cell. Interestingly, the body of Rogvir, the guy executed at Solitude's gates, also appears here, with his head and body separated. This cell is surrounded by empty void on all sides. If you jump down, you'll be teleported back to the center of the cell, and the same goes for corpses you push off the edge. This is a cut arena that wasn't used in the final game. Inside the pit, there are 4 large cages, most likely used to hold other prisoners or wild beasts. Above them is the spectator area, where 12 pit fans are standing and watching the fights. The person in charge of this was an NPC named Huki Seven Swords. Although she doesn't actually appear in this scene, we can still spawn her using console commands. In the original design, she would say, "We don't just let people rot in cells until they've served their time. Here, you fight. If you win, you go free. If you lose, well, you'll know the freedom of Sovngarde if you're lucky." This likely means that originally, if you were arrested in the hold of Eastmarch, you wouldn't just sit quietly in a jail cell. Instead, you would be sent to the pit, where you had to fight your way to freedom. And there was also an NPC here who could be bribed, Benkham. His dialogue makes that pretty clear.
Hello, hello, hello. Interested in fighting in the pit? The rules are strict, but if I don't see it, it didn't happen. Know what I mean?
It's not entirely clear why Bethesda decided to cut this feature, especially considering that Oblivion already had a fully functional arena. One common theory is that they were rushing to meet the 11/11/11 release date, and the pit was cut as a result. This is probably the most famous developer room in Skyrim, as it stores almost every item in the game. It was primarily used by Bethesda's QA team to quickly test items without playing through the game. The items are stored in chests, and there are so many that the game may briefly freeze when you open one. In addition to these items, the room includes all smithing, enchanting, cooking, and alchemy facilities. The door to the east may appear inaccessible, but it actually connects to a room containing all items from the Dawnguard DLC. The western room contains all items from the Dragonborn DLC, and even features a large cage used for testing enemies. One thing worth noting is how unique items are handled here. Weapons like Chilrend and the Mace of MolagBal sit in regular chests, while enchanted weapons exist only as craftable enchantments. In Skyrim, many Daedric princes actually have physical NPC forms. Characters like Sanguine, Sheogorath, and Nocturnal appear directly in the world. What a lot of players don't realize is that MolagBal and Azura also have their own NPC representations. In this room, you can find an avatar of MolagBal, which takes the form of an Imperial NPC. Judging by the room's name, it was likely used to store NPCs for Daedra voice lines. However, based on my testing, when I teleported here during the MolagBal quest in Markarth, the NPC didn't speak at all. Even using console commands to kill him didn't affect MolagBal's in-game voice lines. All of this suggests that this NPC was probably just a placeholder, serving no real purpose. Similarly, Azura has her own voice cell, and her avatar appears as an older female dark elf. This is probably one of the most confusing rooms in all of Skyrim. When you first teleport into this room, you're immediately greeted by a group of naked men, and if you're not mentally prepared, it can be pretty shocking. And then you'll fall together with this whole group straight down into the bottomless void. But if we freeze time, we start to notice something strange. Almost all of these naked NPCs are called Planter, except for the one on the far left, which is named Fish Hatchery. Behind these naked NPCs, there are 3 rows of empty boxes floating in midair. I really can't make sense of what the developers were even testing in this room. If you know what this was for, tell us in the comments.
Something?
There are 5 cells here, all used for testing magical effects, and the overall style is quite chaotic. Cell 1 is a cluster of small rooms, each experimenting with different magical effects. If you turn off collision, you'll notice a floating circular stone platform above, where a dwarven automaton silently watches the rooms below. From this vantage point, you get a full view of the entire cell. To the southwest, a Nordic-style hallway stretches along the western wall, with a spectrum of light, and similar effects appear in the northern rooms. Cell 2 is much simpler, showing only the effect of the Eye of Magnus. Cell 3 is shaped like a canyon, with explosive pots scattered across the ceiling. At the far end, a small pool of water is separated from the rest of the cave by a thin sheet of glacial ice. The developers likely intended for players to set themselves on fire and then put themselves out in the pool, though the fire usually goes out before reaching it. Cell 4 is basically a simpler version of Cell 1, so there isn't much to see here. Cell 5 is the most intriguing. It's a circular platform suspended above the void. To the north sits Jorvaska, home of the companions. At first, it looks distant, but as you get closer, you realize it's actually a miniature model. The lighting in this room gives off a studio-like vibe, adding to the surreal feeling. This hidden room was explored without using console teleport commands. Instead, you must enter the Mad King's dream during Sheogorath's quest. From Sheogorath's table, disable collision in the console and walk east to reach an iron door. After passing through the door, you'll enter a plain house with no furniture at all. But when you phase through the wall and emerge from the room, a disturbing sight awaits. The house sits atop a massive ancient table, surrounded by a world of colossal scale. It seems that your clever use of console commands has caught the attention of the most powerful Prince of Madness. To him, you are merely a toy.
I do love it when the mortals know they're being manipulated. Makes things infinitely more interesting.
If you leave the house through the other door as intended, you are led into an ancient corridor, which opens into a vast chamber where massive structures float in the air. That's our tour of 8 hidden developer rooms in Skyrim. I'll be dropping the console commands for all these rooms in the description and comments so you can check them out yourself. If you've discovered any that I didn't mention, or know some interesting details about them, feel free to share them in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and for all your support.
The Wabbajack! Huh? Didn't see that coming, did you?